Hey everyone, Fatty from Pack a Punch Traders here. Hope everyone had a great weekend. Well, I guess a week. I've been kind of off for most of it. I have been a little volatile mentally, so I'm trying to cut back on smoking. So decided to take a break and calm my mind before I go crazy. And here we are back to it. Tomorrow, August 3rd, we're gonna go over the watch list for tomorrow. Um, so let's just jump into LVTX. Here we are. Recent I don't even know if I want to call it a runner. It literally just gapped up big time overnight, and it qualifies for a multi-day bounce. It's got the red days. It's just holding sideways, failing really to break down below the 440s. We'll call it 450, which is around to that whole dollar, half dollar area. So whenever we see what we usually look for, the failure to really break down, and then it starts breaking to new highs. You see volume start picking up compared to the abnormal volume relative to the past few days, what it was doing. um, Multi-day bounce, LVTX. Same thing with BCAN. We got another one, big fader for the past week or two. Now it's just fading and fading and fading. Same deal with what we just went over as well. It just had the huge gap up, and this one just faded and faded. It did offer a nice little bounce here, but it ended up being red on the day. So in my eyes, I still see shorts in control of this. It's holding right around 3. It's trying. It's having a hard time really breaking past 3 convincingly. Volume's completely fading every single day. It's getting lower and lower. Even when you don't think it's going to get lower. You got 94, 95,000 shares on Thursday, and on Friday, 59. So it just keeps getting lighter. It's having a hard time really pushing lower. So we'll see if that turns into a nice bounce. And then we got SPRO. This one also a possible bounce play where you got that gap up. This one was also a multi-day bounce, and it had a nice gap up and push. That's what we were looking for here. But now we have pretty much, in my eyes, new batch of short sellers in this, looking for this to head lower, and it's off of the highs decently. Ideally, it would fade more, but if we're holding the whole dollar, half dollar area around 2, once we see that abnormal volume compared to what it was doing on the fade, and it's breaking to new highs, that could lead to a nice short squeeze from shorts locking in profits and dip buyers recognizing the momentum, trying not to miss out. You get higher prices as there's an imbalance in the supply and demand. So another one, keep an eye on. Same thing with SLNG, multi-day bounce, where this one, very last 5 minutes of the day, it had a decent push going from the high sixes to the high sevens. But as you can see, there's no volume behind this really. So I'm not sure how many people are really getting squeezed out of this. But this move, the move in price could trigger more people to start covering their position, leading to the nice bounce. So I don't know about how much I trust it. Is that even on my top watches? Yeah, SLNG. Um, but keep an eye on this to see if the volume really starts picking up and it starts failing to break down some more, and that could lead to a nice push if it holds the high sevens, 8ish. I'm gonna move to the nines, maybe tens. Um, but once again, looking for that abnormal volume compared to what it was doing recently on the fade on the backside. So watch out for that, and looking for that trend, it reclaiming to new highs, holding that uptrend, holding VWAP, holding that high a day. That could lead all to a nice short squeeze. So enough with the multi-day bounces. We got SAI, which I guess is kind of like a multi-day bounce, but I'm not really looking at it like that. I'm seeing it more kind of like a first green day. We do have this solid pullback. The only reason I'm not looking at it as a multi-day bounce is we did not have any huge run up, so it's a slight variation of the pattern. But here we are, over 50% fade in the past week, and it was due for a bounce here. So if this thing continues to fail to break down, I don't see why. I mean, it's a super. I don't want to say super low float, but it's a low floater. So if it fails to break down and comes back, reclaims the mid threes, whole dollar, half dollar area, holding VWAP, volume is continuing to pick up. I don't see why shorts, if they fail to hold it down, don't get squeezed out, and they could test 4, 4.5. What do I have written down? No goals. Okay, but where I'm looking at here, whole dollar, half dollar area around 4. You got the close here around 420. Topped out on this, excuse me, this one day around 410. So I will be looking at the low fours to be a key area. After that, looks like we got some bundled up resistance around the 480s here. That could be some trouble. But yeah, so SAI, looking for the continuation of this move. If it has a previous day high at daybreak, confirms it, volume continues to pick up, we could get a nice move. And then are we at lastly, ATHX, right? Yes, last one here. So this one we got a breakout, finally something different compared to a multi-day bounce. Here we're just really looking for the volume to pick up, as we usually say. Even though we got the low floater, the solid volume here, we're gonna want to ideally do as much, if not more. But there's times where you'll see it not really do as much as that one day, but there's enough imbalance that it does still lead to a move. What is one? There was one that's completely found the breakdown. BIAF, I think. Was it that one? No. Oh my god, how am I forgetting this? I think it was beat. Yes, okay. So here, I remember last week before I started going crazy, we got, I went over on a lesson here how we had a fake out here, how there's not enough volume really to sustain the move, and that it really needs volume to be sustaining and increasing more for it to really break over 2.5 convincingly. And it had a hard time, like, it wasn't super high volume that it had, but it was consistent, and that's what led to the continual failure to break down and squeeze higher. As you can see, it wasn't like it had one super clean squeeze where it went from 250 to 450 all in one day, which is definitely possible. We've seen plays like that happen all the time. But what kind of volume do they have? They have this kind of volume, not this lower volume that is continuous over a few days. That does lead it to push higher. So a little different than what we usually talk about. So, but good lesson here on volume, on how looking at it over a few days, maybe not just individually on the day, because you got this nice move each day. There was about 15-20% move, nothing insane, but there was an opportunity. So besides this one day where it took off, so that was just as an example. ATHX here, we're going to be looking for that high volume. Not looking for that choppy action like how BEAT. Like, I personally don't regret missing any of these days, if we're being honest, because I just never really saw the convincing volume for it to push higher. Sure, it did rotate the flow, I will say that, and it was every day that it did that, pretty much. So it did show signs of strength, but not enough strength to offer the move that I prefer playing. This thing went from 2.5 to 4.5 over 1, 2, 3, 4 days. So not really talking shit about this. It did offer some opportunities to play it, but it's just not what I'm really used to playing or approaching stocks. So I don't really worry about it that much. But nonetheless, there's a good lesson out of it. So for volume, and maybe we'll apply it to ATHX. But ideally, we get very strong volume and something with a thick candle, and that offers the breakout over 2-10 for the move to test the whole dollar, half dollar area of 2.5. Might give a quick perk into the next resistance in the 280s. It's right above. So we'll see how the 2.5 area holds. If the volume is there, could possibly keep going a little further to the high twos, 3-ish. Where as you can see, there is some resistance here. But the key area we're going to be looking at is the 2-210 area. That's where it has the most volume. That's where we usually look at as key areas of resistance where there's volume there as well, because there's going to be eyes there. So I will be looking at this because there is a tiny bit of a bump in these few days compared to what it usually does. Um, but yeah, so that's my expectation out of this. Now we're just waiting for the volume, see what it could do. I know this video is getting pretty long for the top plays, so we'll just wrap it up. Hope everyone had a great week, great weekend, learned something, and let's stay fresh and get ready to talk tomorrow. Have a great one, guys.